Hi, Frisia.
Hello.
Hello. Hi, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you,
How are
Flaminia.
you?
Good, good. It's
Good.
10 at night here over here in Tokyo, Japan.
Oh, from Japan. Wow.
Yeah,
What time is it now in Japan?
it's 10 p.m. at night. Not too late,
Oh,
so it's a good.
oh, so sorry. It's quite late.
It's fine.
Okay, fine. So I'm very happy that you're here, and I will share my screen. So I know that you already received my presentation, maybe about what will I know.
Um, I don't think so.
Okay, no problem. So I will share with you now. So
Okay.
here, yeah. Okay, so before starting, I want to introduce myself. I'm Flaminia. I am a fashion illustrator, and I consider myself an illustrator and also a graphic designer. I studied fashion and costume in Rome, where I live. And I also worked for some important fashion brands. Um, well, those are some of my fashion illustrations. Those were some of my past entries for Fida World. And maybe, as you know, I really like the digital illustration. I think that digital illustration offers you a very an infinite way to express, to change your point of view. Um, but I think also it's extremely important to start from a traditional drawing. I think every illustrator should experiment with traditional tools maybe before going to the digital ones. Maybe today we are in a period time where there are so many artificial AI programs, and maybe sometimes people think that can work directly with that. But I think it's important for us to work with our hands and to experiment a bit more with that. But and for example, here as those are some other entries for Fida, I realized. And here you can see much more that mix of traditional and digital. In this case, I really loved the way, for example, to express myself with the pencils, like in the right one. There's a very rustical atmosphere gave by the use of the pencils and the mix of colors that pencils can give to a design. So I think maybe one of my signature is that mix. I'm still learning because I think every illustrator should change sometimes their point of view and their like the references. And but I think it's important to have something that can characterize your work. And here's, for example, I can show you a bit more about a kind of process behind an illustration. So you can see on the left side one of my reference. And in this illustration, I decided to put on the very first impact that the image gave to me. I think it was a very graphic sign. It was the graphic sign that the pattern of the knitwear, like this red contrast with the green, and also the sunglasses, this contrast between the skin of the model and the white of the sunglasses and also the eyes too. I think illustrators, maybe with Patrick, we've already talked about it, about how illustrators are fascinating by the side, by the eyes. And also, like in this case here, there is a white of the flower and the contrast between the hairs. I think there were some elements that I really want to put on my illustration, like also this hair here. It's like a sign, but it's something really characteristic of the image. So this was also the Avant-Garde Award. And here I thought that the idea was also, as I said before, to change a bit my point of view. So first of all, I decided to go with pencils, just like a kind of sketch of my image, and to work with collage. Like you can see, there are some the elements that I was talking about you before. I decided to work on with that. So sometimes maybe you can start with just some elements that for you could be used, could be the very central point of your illustration. And then I can go with the digital work. Then you can express yourself with colors and so it was a very digital, like graphical, let's say graphical is better, graphical illustration. And this is another example. So here we come back to a bit more digital, just digital. But what I wanted to share with you is here there's another topic to me. The topic is where you have to work with brands. So maybe before I showed you some images that where it was completely free. So you have to work with your personal expressions and you have to work with your feelings and at your best, let's say. But here it's quite different to me because here it was about recreating a sort of campaign for a brand, like commercial campaign. And I think it's like another level of difficulty here. Because it's like when you have to work, when you have to do an illustration, you always have to think about the research. But in this case, there's a part of the research that should be the brand identity. And I think to me, it's maybe the best part, because I think we have to respect and to show, to demonstrate the great history behind the brand. So it's really fun. To me, it's really fun. It's a work. It's another kind of work, but I think here we can do our best because we can work with the research, with the personal research, and adding the brand of the history of the brand. And here we a little bit closer with what we will talk now. So I would like to show you some extras, some parts of 2 projects I realized with famous brands. So you will see how you can show something when you have a client, a famous client, how you can work with them. So you don't have just to give them the illustration. Sometimes you have to present your work. Maybe sometimes there's just a contest, maybe there's just an open call, but you have to present yourself. It's always a chance to work with them. So how you can do it at your best. And here's some ideas. And sometimes I would show you also my process behind. So let's start with the Lacoste Live project. It was really cool and also unusual to me because it was to realize something live. The idea was to work directly on a shoe, and it was a live event in London. And there were so clients who could decide to give their shoes and work on that and illustrated something also whatever they wanted to do. And it was really cool. And I decided to give you also a part of the briefing they gave us. Because I think that it's really important to start from their idea. So sometimes the words can say more than everything. So in this case, they are not just showing us some images of products, they are telling what's behind the design of the shoes. And that could be also part of your research. So in this case, they were showing for the very first time because you couldn't find that at that time on the web. So they were showing us the product, the shoes. They were telling us also that there were different colors. And they were talking about some elements, like, for example, they say that these lines were inspired by the lines of the vintage racket, and especially from this part that has been called, that is called the heart, the racket. And they also said that the heart is the same place of the crocodile is put on the iconic polo, Lacoste polo. So to me, for example, those were some great elements to use on my design. And this was the very first cover of the project. In fact, sometimes you can, to present yourself, to present your work, you have to imagine how can I decide to show it, like maybe one page. Sometimes you can, I suggest you also to use their logo because it's something that you are sending to them, obviously. And always put your name on the work because it should be recognizable. They should know that, okay, so she is Flaminia, she's working for us. Okay, she's presenting herself. And as you can see, some of the details I used were just presenting, we're just saying something. We are talking about something simple, digital. We should also consider that the drawing should have been realized with hands and live. So obviously the design should have been quite simple, clear, and like in a certain sense, they should have caught your eyes, your attention. Here, for example, it's a suggestion that I could give you. Sometimes you can have some sketches or just some samples that you will not use for your design, your final design, maybe not all of them, but they could be useful to give like a mood board, to give to them like a first impression of what you can do, of what we will talk. This was one of the design. I choose to, the first one was the Lacoste skirt to me. And I want to replicate the simplicity of the line, of the racket line. So the same lines of the tennis court were represented, but as you can see, as the racket line, you will not recognize it because it's like a part of that, a part of the racket. And here the same concept to me for the tennis court. You can see a part of it, but and your mind can reconstruct it, but you will not see for real. And I think what could really work on this kind of design. And the other element that I used has been the recreating a Lacoste lettering, adding, for example, a tennis ball. Here's another example. When you have a presentation, in this case, even more, when you have to like sell yourself, sell your image, sell your work, it should be better to work directly with the image, with the realistic image, because obviously the client could be more interested in seeing something. Oh, that's cool. So that's how you will see for real. So obviously you can do it. In this case, you can do it. So you can also decide to put in your presentation design and also other kind of photographic images with your design in it. Do you use like Photoshop?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Use Photoshop.
So you also can do something like this, like mockup.
So these are photoshopped.
Yes, I put the design. I think that maybe this design has been realized with Procreate, but not sure. Maybe with Illustrator. However, I thought I changed. I had a PNG, so my illustration was on PNG, and then I opened Photoshop and I took the design with Photoshop. So I didn't have the background on the design because it was on PNG, and then I did a mockup because in their presentation they had some slides with the shoes, and I decided to put it to steal like these images and to put my design. This was another inspiration, another design. So before we were talking about the fact that the crocodile, it's on the heart of the polo. And I thought that in reality, the crocodile, it's the heart of the brand. So I decided to put this idea and this concept, and the crocodile to me, it was fundamental, but I knew that the crocodile logo was already in the shoes, as you can see it, so I couldn't do exactly the same logo. And I just took one element of the crocodile, the eye, and it's completely recognizable, I think. And so this idea, then they asked me to change a bit part of this design, but it remains, the idea is exactly this one.
Wow.
And this was the last one. Here the inspiration has been the famous Roland Garros match, a tennis match. It's a famous field in a tennis court in France, and it's famous for its orange ground. So I changed the Roland Garros in Roland Croco because I decided to design this crocodile, stylized crocodile, who is like eating the Lacoste lettering, and to use like one shoes should have been with the crocodile eating the Lacoste lettering, and the other side should have been with his tail. So basically, this is a very digital, like graphical work. I think it was in line with their kind of style. They asked us something to put on the shoes. They asked us to work on specific elements. They were talking about sports. So it was a project for them. And I think that they appreciated also the fact that I was showing them for real how it could be realized live. But here I will show also another kind of project. We see something completely different now. So this is Prado project. Prado is an Italian brand. They are famous for, they produce shoes and bags, and for women, it's definitely more feminine, elegant, classical, but in a certain sense also innovative in some shapes that I use, like for example in some heels, they have their own heels, and there are very great interest in some natural elements they use for their bags and also shoes. So here is something really different. This was the cover of the project. Differently from Lacoste, I decided to work with to show directly one of my illustration. And so here's what I decided to put before presenting all the illustration. Sometimes it's not necessary, but sometimes when you cannot talk directly to a client, maybe it could be better to help them understand or introduce to your work, like you can have something to say, and or maybe you just want to let them enter much more in your project. So here, for example, I said that from a stylistic and technique point of view, I wanted to mix together the traditional techniques, like, for example, watercolors or inking, but with the digital tools, in order to recreate a bit more that mix of tradition and innovation that is proper of the brand. So you have a very classical attitude, but with a bit more strength gave by the digital work, I think. And about the colors, for example, sometimes, there are some brands, there are fashion brands that are very famous and recognizable by some colors. For example, Gucci, the red and green, or maybe Chanel by black and white. And it wasn't the same case here, but I decided that I would have tell the story of this work using colors that could express one characteristic of the brand. So I started with a botanic green because I thought that the brand has a very attention to natural materials, and in my illustrations you can find, even if you can find the green, sometimes you can find organic shapes or just florals, and maybe in the shade, maybe you can use the iconic black. I think black, it's one of the most elegant non-color because it really expresses the femininity of Rhoda woman, and also the creative tangerine. It expresses really the energy, but also the idea of craftsmanship. They have a very great respect for the art of the traditional of the artisans. So it was a way to express that. And here you can see, for example, I made this illustration with this floral illustration with watercolors, but also digital. So I mixed them on Photoshop. And the shoes were made by hand drawing. And the flowers I did them in watercolor directly. And then the color of the background, the color of the shoes has been made directly on Illustrator, on Photoshop. And here you can also have collage, you can see it. Sometimes collage can be also a way to make your illustration more three-dimensional. So it could give another way to express. This wasn't exactly in the presentation, but I want to share with you an example of what you can do. Sometimes you can decide to put a mood board before the project, or maybe specific mood boards refers to your image. To me, this was the vanity clutch illustration. If you go to the site too, they wrote about this clutch that is it comes from the inspiration of Venere di Botticelli. So I decided in this case to work with both with Venere di Botticelli and also Venere di Milo, and to represent a female figure that to me it represents also an example of a Rhodo woman. I think, for example, they don't have a very young referring cluster type of cluster, but more an adult person, like this kind of woman. Sometimes also I think also this kind of research should be part of your research. So sometimes you have to work who could buy something for the brand. This could not have been a typical Lacoste example of buyer. So it's important also to think about this. So I think we have finished what we can say about how to present. Maybe I can tell you, I gave you at the very end of my presentation, I gave also a memo, a reminder of what a presentation could be. Obviously, you have to consider that there's not a formula. There's not, you don't have to do that always in the same way. There's always this or this, but you can consider like some steps where you can work on, how you can work for yourself. And so let's see. So I don't know if you want to work now live and something, if you want. So the idea to me was to work with icons. We talk about iconic products. We talk about the importance of understand what's the history, what's the brand identity. So here the idea is that I will share with you some images I selected, but feel free to pick anything that you selected, maybe on Pinterest, on Instagram, or directly from your home. Also perfumes or bags, whatever you want. The task is to illustrate these iconic products, considering your personal inspiration and the brand identity. And maybe you can challenge yourself with with some of the tools I show you in the presentation. Maybe it could be collage, maybe it could be mixed collage with digital, but you're completely free to me. So whatever you want, like analog or digital, and you can choose one or more brands. I also talked to you about the importance of a market for your illustration, like let's say the product placement for the illustration. Like before, I show you my illustrations for Lacoste were made in consideration of the fact that it was a live event, and I needed to replace on a shoes live. In this case, you're completely free. So if you want to work for something, if you need it to work on a product, we can say that you can work on an invitation for a showroom presentation or a fashion show. After that, if you want, maybe I can show you something I did. It's something completely digital, and I made it preparing this presentation. I thought about some ideas, and I realized something that maybe I will share soon. And I would like to give you an idea of what you can do, but it's really completely digital.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you want, there are some images I selected, but if you have something you prefer, let's
No,
tell
I
me.
can. Yeah, it would be great. I can use this
You like
images
it?
you selected. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So what are maybe your favorite brands in terms of products?
Actually, I only recognize Miu Miu.
Mm-hmm. This is
Maybe.
Schiaparelli, and that's Prada.
Okay.
This is Gucci, Valentino, and Prada. We have also Fendi, Dolce & Gabbana, and Diesel. And this is Prada, Jacquemus, and Valentino. For example, if I have to tell you something about these images, I think here is, well, here there's an element that can work. The color here, that's the black and gold, and there's a very like clear, clean atmosphere, elegant, but also rational. It's very, I think this image gave me this kind of impact. Here, for example, I want to show how the color can be so important. Sometimes maybe you don't have to say much more, but the color is speaking for you in an illustration. So let's see how the bag can work, can come to you with that kind of background. So the red, yeah, you can see those were something different. Well, I have to say that I have a very personal interest for the red and pink colors combination. I really loved it. And it's like a kind of juicy to me, juicy and fresh and youthful. It expressed like this kind of attitude to me. I really like it. I use it a lot. And here's, for example, the Fendi foulard. I use it for an illustration. I really like Fendi because they have this idea. Sometimes in their clothes, they're very refined, very classical, but like very serious in a certain sense. But they are this kind of opposite world in their accessories. They're very funny. They have some, for example, in this case, it's like a trompe of a foulard, and it's like a new type of attitude. I really like it, and I use it like a towel for a picnic in my illustration. So I decided to put the foulard like it's the picnic floor, and then the bag that was a picnic bag of Fendi. So sometimes Fendi can give you this kind of cool and fresh ideas. Well, that's pink, very pink. I love it. And to me here, it's always about playing. Here we are playing with the dimensions. So sometimes in illustrations, you can work with this very like giant elements in the bag. In the Valentino bag, there's this new change of the Rockstad. It was Rockstad. It's the iconic element of Valentino, and they changed a bit their idea. So now they used to work with very giant Rockstad. And in opposite, you have the Jacques Muse. Like it seems like a very tiny bag. And maybe you can also play with this difference in an illustration. I used to study also children illustration or character illustrations in this period. I've always been in love with that kind of world. And for example, in the character illustrations, you can reach completely different results in changing the proportions. Sometimes it can express really more if you change a part of the body. So maybe sometimes you can work also with this. And here another kind of images. Here there's the Miu Miu. I love Miu Miu because it's very fresh to me. It has this sense of youth and every new generation is fascinated by Miu Miu. It's incredible. It's always young, it's always fresh. And maybe also here you can work with colors if you like it, this kind of pink and yellow, but it's a dusty pink. It's a very soft, it's elegant and quite feminine. But if you prefer, for example, something more rock or more dark, feel free to share with me some other kind of products. I think I selected some images I like and I could work with. So you can tell me whatever you want if you need these images.
Do you mean we pick one from these images?
Yes.
Or combine one object?
You can pick whatever you want.
Okay.
If you need some time to make your own research, you can do it.
Maybe I can go with your suggestion, one of your suggestions. I kind of wanted to try the second slide, the vivid color ones. Yeah, one of them.
This one?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. If you want, I can give open to my presentation here. If you want to make a stamp of this on your screen.
I can, yeah, screenshot.
Okay. So let's say so we still have some time. So the idea was to have half of our time to give this one and then make a presentation. But the idea was to collect more than one image and to let you make a presentation with more than one, of course. But maybe there's not much time to do this. So you can spend all your time in choosing like one or two images and create your own illustrations.
Okay.
If it's fine, okay?
Okay.
Feel free to send me also if you will if you want to do or to share something also in the next days. I gave you my contacts at the end of the presentations, so if you want, of course.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So I pick images and then just draw,
Yes,
draw,
of course.
and
Draw.
then
What is your interest in this image? What is your idea?
um, let's say I think I mean, maybe you can give me advice with this, kind of
Yes.
brainstorming part. But I thought the picture on the right, um, I think it's good to illustrate because it has a human, and then the contrast of human and bag is like very uh obvious. So I can do something with it.
Yes. Would you like, for example, to I don't know if you have some colored paper now, or maybe
Oh,
you can also color it by yourself. Like if you have some acrylics, if you want to work like with your traditional tools, maybe you can try to work with the collage, and you can
mm-hmm,
paint yourself your papers,
mm-hmm,
and then recreate. You can decide to recreate just the lettering of the bag, like
mm-hmm,
Prada,
mm-hmm.
so it will pop up really
Mm,
apart. And it could be a really brand illustration,
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
it could be cool. Or maybe you can work like all the bag. So as you can see, the shape of the bag, it's like a triangle, so it could be quite easy to reproduce, I think, with scissors if you need to cut it.
Yeah.
And when we use collage, sometimes it's better to use the I don't know how it's called in English, like bisturi, like medical.
Ah, okay.
I don't know if you understood what I said. They're not sisters, but it's I will show you. Wait, I have
Okay.
it. Oh, yes, I remember. It's like a cutter, a cutter,
Cutter. Ah, okay,
cutter.
okay, okay.
Yes. Sometimes it's better, but because it helps you um in working with a cut. So it's better if you have it.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you can see this figure is quite in a it's quite completely black,
Yeah.
because the idea is that the product should be shown, not the figure, not the clothes. Yes, the hat, it's an accessory too of the campaign, but of the collection, but the bag here is the main character of the composition.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is the idea when you have to work with a product.
Mm-hmm.
So I think in your illustration, you can completely uh, make on one color this figure. So you won't see the difference between the skin or the hat. Maybe you can work with this, or maybe just some little signs. And it could be interesting in using collage here, for example, to me.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe the idea to you could be that the next illustration that you will work on, you should use the same techniques
Mm-hmm.
in order to give a presentation to a client. Maybe you will work on the same kind of techniques. Okay.
Okay. So just start now.
Yes,
Okay.
I'm here for everything if you need.
Okay. Can I ask you a question, Flaminia? You talked about mixed media, and I do use iPad, and also I'm currently practicing analog as well. But when you try to combine them like in a short period of time, like we cannot like try everything, the analog thing, and go to scanner, right? So how
So
should we do that?
yes, of course.
Yeah.
Sometimes I use photos.
Photos
Of
nice.
course, you have to maybe the photo doesn't have the right lights, but
Mm,
you have to find maybe the correct light. But you can always change a bit with the use of Photoshop if you have it. Because I don't know, I think Procreate can do this.
mm,
Mm.
yeah, I use Procreate just for drawing, and then
Yes,
for adjusting I do Photoshop.
you can do it.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Okay, but it's not always necessary, but sometimes it helps. To me,
Mm.
consider everything I may I let you see before was made just with photos, never scanned.
Ah, okay.
I hate
So,
scan. I had so many problems with that. I know that it's
uh,
better to use it, but
mm,
sometimes I think photos can help you.
yeah, good to hear that. So I can also do that now and then
Yes, of course.
Photoshop.
Yes,
Ah, okay, okay.
I hope you
Um,
have
yeah. How
kind
long?
of,
How?
because now it's night, and maybe you would in Japan. You told me it's night now, so
It's
maybe
fine.
you will have a little problem with the artificial lights because it's better to use natural when you have
Ah,
to
that's true.
photograph.
That's right, 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 right. The
We
problem.
could try. You can try if you
Mm,
want. If you want to do this mixed media, I think you can try.
okay. How long do we have for this?
So I think if you want all the time, all the remaining time, I
Mm,
think still an hour, 1 hour,
okay.
if you want. If you need some feedback to me,
Mm-hmm.
don't worry. We can, if we don't have the time now, I can, you can send me your work later. But if you want to talk again to me, so we can, I can also stay a bit more if you need. I don't know, Patrick.
It'd be great if you could give me feedback. So,
Yes, yes,
yeah.
I would really like to see what's your work, what's your idea.
Yeah, but I've never kind of worked like this. Like I'm always alone when I work, so I'm a little bit
Yeah, I
new
understand it. I
with the
completely
outcome.
understand it. I will make my own affair now. So so you're alone. Okay, I will. In fact, I thought it was very difficult also for the time, and it's not I want to help you, not to give you more pressure. So really, really, it's important to me because I do the same. To me, it's like it's me in my studio and drawing and taking my time.
Yeah.
Flaminia, uh, I think yours on mute.
Here I am.
Just a quick question, as we spoke earlier, um, about the softwares that you use and how you mix, because you were saying you don't use Procreate, you use Photoshop, is that correct?
Yes, exactly.
And
Uh,
is there a reason why you decided not to use Procreate over Photoshop? And
Procreate is for iPad, and I don't know if now there's a version for computer too, but I have I use Photoshop or an Illustrator on my computer. So if I have to be honest, sometimes I use all Procreate too, but because someone gave their iPad, so otherwise I don't have it.
And are you using a Wacom tablet or are you drawing just with the mouse?
Yes, I have a Wacom tablet. I have a very small tablet, and now I'm starting drawing also on a bigger one because I now I have Wacom with screen. It's the 16, I think, Wacom 16.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's better. It's quite better because when you have the, like in the iPad, when you have the screen directly to draw, it's easier. But it's like I said before for drawing with traditional before, if you start with something harder, then it will be always easier, and it will be like more constructive in a certain sense. So let's start from something more simple before going to something difficult.
And when you're designing your illustrations, do you scan in different textures or are you using different brushes within Photoshop?
Sometimes I work with a photographing something like different textures. And for example, about the college, sometimes I want to photograph and to use it like the real texture on the digital then. And in other cases, like for example, I don't have, now I can go back to my presentation because of Brizia, she's working on it. But in the case of the traditional illustrations I show before, one of them has this sense of pencils, and it's the real texture. Maybe I can show here. So this is really the very texture, and I really like it. Made it for real, not digital. And
Yes.
also this one, this sense of like, what can I say, the shades. These shades has been made by Pantone, by mixing two kinds of Pantone, and then also the pink pencil has been it was a watercolor pencil, and with the use of Pantone that has the water in it, you can shade it.
Yeah.
And that was real. In the other design, the other illustration that was in the presentation with this one was made by an artificial texture made by digital brushes.
Right. Okay. And which do you think is the most successful at the moment? And when you get feedback, what work really gets the best feedback?
Oh, that's interesting. Well, I think that going very what can I say, very realistic, it's not the best choice. I understood that. In the past, someone told me that it was too much closer to reality and too much closer to photograph. So maybe it couldn't be as their interest could be more on the use of a photograph. Like, for example, maybe the Bulgari work, the Bulgari campaign with Marika Tranzu, it could be like maybe we can use a photograph to do this. But I think, in my opinion, maybe I can understand the idea that, but I think sometimes you have to judge also what is the storytelling behind. I decided to nominate this presentation like with a kind of motto. It's like, be your own art director, because I think that we're not just showing an illustration like this is my design and it's just a drawing. It's not like this. I think it's a very deep research in what you're telling, especially when you have to work with brands. And so I think sometimes you're not proposing just a drawing, or in this case an illustration, but also an idea, a work of like an art director do. So, but if I have to tell you, I think that maybe it doesn't work too much, going too much realistic. So it works better, something more much more like giving a sense of what you're drawing, or of the product, and something like, I don't know if I told you what you want to know.
No, it was more because I see your work, and it has different values, as in some of it feels quite real, and then some of it's much more graphic. I guess you see how I respond to the work, which ones sort of resonate for me, like the ones that are more graphic, I think have more commercial value. And then, you know, when we did the Lacoste project, it was more graphic again, with a sort of an idea. And I feel that that work really is punchy and captures the eye. Like, even looking at the pictures that are on the screen at the moment, like the Prada with the silhouette and the green bag, it's very graphic. And I think a lot of us are quite used to the graphic image that captures your eye quite fast. And I think a lot of fashion illustrators who go through a very drawing style and then become more graphic as they become more confident, you'll see that their work does better. But I think, but for you, you have a good sense of graphic design as well. So I know that from when we worked together. So I think that graphic design eye and graphic image making really is your stronghold in refining the work that you make, especially like the Gucci one and things like that, which I think have really worked well. And I'd like to, I just think there's so much commercial value in that work as well. And I know it's quite difficult to get people engaged in all the work that you make, because Instagram's quite a difficult space to function in, and no one should change their process due to social media. And I think that's the hard part, is because you get fearful and stuff like that. So I guess you're an interesting character to look at on social media, because you sort of dance between a few different techniques as you're playing, and then you kind of come back to this more graphic style, which I think personally works. But longevity is the only thing that you need within your workflow. Is there has to be the breadth of time, and then people start seeing. You know, we've spoken before about Cecilia Karlstedt, who's a great illustrator, but people will backtrack through her work for years. So the breadth of work is there, which is what's really the hard part for a lot of illustrators today. So like new illustrators like Miki's come here today, and you know, advice to any illustrator, if you were advising yourself from the first day we met and spoke, what advice would you give to someone who's new?
Oh, well, yes, I think as you said, trying to push to maybe to what it's more in my feelings, even if it's hard to me to choose something, because it's like I have very different interests in different kind of illustrators and illustrations. So I like what is I like very different styles, and sometimes I really want to push myself and try also to change a bit more. However, I think that today what I really see is that in fashion, maybe I'm wrong, but I see many people drawing live. So the most part of illustrators, I think they are working with live drawing for like portraits. It's what I see. It works better today. So in the what I see on for illustrators, so many brands, I see they ask illustrators to work for portraying live, but it's hard. It's really hard to me to give an advice to myself also, because I'm not understanding what the fashion brands are looking for when they want to work with illustrators. Like there's never kind of continuating collaboration. It's like a spotlight collab, and maybe just for what I said before, like live events and portraits. It's what I see the most. So it's hard to me to choose what's the best advice. The best advice to work in this field maybe should be trying to work more with live, or to maybe to find a new way to work live. I'm maybe too many portraits. I think we can change also this. If you want to go live, maybe we can change the concept. We can. I would like, for example, to work like Frisia now, like work with live products. Maybe it could be something that I should work on. Like, for example, if a brand has a new event, maybe the launch of a collection, maybe an illustrator can prepare something for that, like shoes and bags, jewels of that collection, and maybe realize live something like this. I think they should change also a bit more. I don't know if you can tell me something about it, like today, what are the most collaboration, the most important requests in this field? What do you think?
100% live illustration is the most important part of fashion at the moment, as for fashion illustrators getting work. Illustrators drawing live at shows, I think, should be more, but they don't do it.
Yes.
It's more about just selling products at retail shops. So it's a bit of entertainment on top of buying a product. But a lot of, I think what you're trying to say and what I'm noticing is that a lot of retail companies don't represent the brands, and some do, but they don't have a consistent viewpoint, because they see the fashion illustrators as extra entertainment rather than the core ingredient to promoting the product. So you may be speaking to an event organizer who has no connection to Prada or Miu Miu or someone like that. So they just get anybody who they know or they can get, who they think is quite cool at the moment or who they like. But they haven't really thought about the style of the brand. I think Prada's a bit better because they had Pete of Paris, they've had Jessica Bird, and they really consider who they bring, but they don't. I don't know how deeply involved the thinking is behind who they commission, and I think that's the hard part of what an illustrator is trying to do, is build up a relationship or something with a brand, like a photographer, and then create a vision. I don't think that's happening yet, but I feel that in time it may come. I think fashion illustrators are refinding their feet within the fashion system because they were not there for a while, and I feel that they're learning who they are again and finding a role. And then, you know, hopefully after this light entertainment as a live artist, they might have a more powerful role. And until it's in magazines and in editorials, it's going to stay photography based. The only way I see is more collage with using photography within your work, but that's a hard way to do it. But I think, you know, someone like you could have like a green Prada bag, that's the photograph, and you could illustrate the silhouette of the person, and then that combines a combination of photography and art and creativity to make an outcome. But that takes courage from the brands. I think it's courage at the moment. Yeah, so we're at an interesting time, but at least illustrators are in the space, they're in the conversation, and I think that's quite good. So we're starting to see more and more people wanting or requested to draw live. So, you know, we did it. It was one of our first activations, and I was hoping Lacoste would do more and more and more. But they only have 1 or 2 events in London, and then they'll have another event, and they might say, well, we need to mix it up and do something different because they host so many events and so many pop-ups. So yeah, I saw Rodo using an illustrator in they might have been in Indonesia. So I saw Rodo just doing a project in Indonesia with an illustrator. So everybody's taking it on board. It's just how they use it and who they link to, who they talk to. So I guess it's quite difficult. It'd be interesting to see how you would, because you were customizing a product before, and it would be good to see how, if you were to draw live, like I'd like to see a combination of collage, printing out. You could even print out the product like a still life and then work on top of it. So it's all about speed and time and what you can achieve in your time. But I definitely think there's a possibility. So I don't know what Miki's done. How's she getting on? How's her was she doing some drawings? Are you okay, Miki?
Yeah.
Did you do a drawing, or what was happening? Or you're listening?
Yeah, while listening, I'm still continuing my drawing.
But I won't talk too much because Flaminia's got lots of interesting knowledge, and that's why she's here, because being Italian, they have good taste. And that's the main ingredient of a good Italian, is the taste and understanding of good composition and good. They're very different from other Europeans, and they believe in narrative, and they believe in visual communication through photography, through image making. So you'll get a very different flavor from Tracy's class, which is British, which is much more go to it and draw, where an Italian person is a lot more thinking, slower, more paced.
Interesting.
So you can see the philosophy of the two classes, how they're very different. British people are much more direct. They just jump straight in, where an Italian thinks about it. That's my experience of working with both. Flaminia might correct me.
If you think about it, if you think about an Italian person, it's like more direct, more no.
As an attitude, yes, but I think to image making, they are for me, I feel they're more procrastinators, and they actually really think about the concept, and they make very small decisions. Where the British people are much more passive, so they're the opposite in art than they are to attitude. So they're much more quieter. They don't say much, and they'll stand back.
I speak a lot. You're saying speaking too much.
No, it's just the
joking.
way of working and the way of thinking. So it's just, but I know with Italian art creatives, they have a very good eye, and they have the history of classical arts.
Yeah.
So you can't buy the knowledge of Italian classicism. It's built in their DNA.
Thank you.
So Miki, let's have a look at what you did. How did you get on? Did you?
Oh my god.
The pressure's on. I shouldn't be speaking, but I am.
No, actually, it's good to because it's such a great opportunity. I want to know more about yeah, Flaminia's experience and knowledge, but also yeah, I felt like I need to do my work and have feedback. So
Yeah.
so okay, normally I use a lot of digital media. I mean iPad, and even for drawing. So it's really my experiment. So maybe I'm not that good, but I tried to oh sorry.
Do you want to send me something on my email? Do you prefer? I can share it.
Yeah, I can do that. I can do that.
If you prefer, we can do like this, okay?
Sorry.
If you want, I will see. I will make you wait.
Yeah, it would be great. Maybe like I sent you the final work.
Yes.
Afterward.
Sure. Oh,
Okay.
sorry. Here. My email.
Okay. Thank you.
You can also post the images in the chat. So if you photograph them, you can post them in the chat, and we
Yes.
can have a look. So
Chat.
Miki, if you want to photograph it and put it in the chat, send it to
Okay.
yourself, or it's quite a good way to share your work if we can't see it.
Okay.
But Miki, you have your style. How would you explain your style, Miki?
My style. I I'm kind of realist, not that of like expressionist or like surrealism kind of. I try to stick to the realistic part, but also try to put some element that is that will kind of catch people's eye, like maybe make the color very vivid or make some lines very bold. So overall, it's not to like expressionism. Try to kind of I think the object, like the brand, is very important, so I respect that. So and then try to emphasize that product overall with like some twist. I don't know if this is a good explanation.
Yes. So you like to express yourself with colors, with great contrast, and also with the use of lines. And maybe sometimes the line could be bold in some parts when you have to need more. And are you saying that
Yeah.
when you want to emphasize something?
yeah, for example, that's what this is like example what I said. So this
Oh,
is a
cool.
Chanel
Really?
runway, and the main part is this clothes, the very iconic tweed jacket, and other parts are kind of not like real colors, but try to match with the jacket. I wanted to, yeah, at least, yeah, say that
The
the jacket is
focus.
the, yeah, the focus, but
Yes.
try to like make some bold part, something like that. Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
yes, I
yeah,
really
yeah.
like it. I think you had a great color intentions and that illustration. So I like the way you represent the tweet, because as you told, the tweet is something very characteristical of Chanel, and you find your own way to represent it, and I can say yes, of course, that Chanel. I can see it, even if it's not that realistical. And as I said before, it works. Sometimes it works better than realistic.
Thank you.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, I just sent you the image. Actually, I tried to, because you were really good at mixing medias. I tried to use different medias with the ink and the color pencils. We're still in progress.
Yes,
I feel
wait,
like there's no.
just wait, and
I
I
feel like
try
there's no emphasis.
to download it, but I can see it. Wait. I don't know where is it?
Let me have a look.
Do you see it? I see it on the chat.
Yeah,
Unless you can open it, Miki, in the chat, because it's a HEIC file. I don't.
Yes,
It seems to have problems.
yes.
okay.
See if you can open it. You've got the possibility of screen sharing as well, Miki, so you can share it.
How about now?
You
Yes.
you can open it on your screen if you want. Let me
Okay.
see.
Sure. Oh,
There you go. Ah, good.
Oh,
and
wait.
I was I wanted to, yeah, cut out the back part and then do the collage.
So the idea for you is to make, so tell me before what you used as tools. So it's ink,
Yeah.
also the Prada.
On the Prada, it's colored pencil.
Yes, okay. So you wanted to mix also what do I say, the different traditional tools. So you decided to do the in person, and then okay. And your idea is to mix them digitally.
Yes, mix them digitally or collage them analog, and then on digital side I add more backgrounds and make the color of the bag more vivid. Something
Okay,
like that.
what I can say to you is that when you have to make collage, I think you need two different techniques, but in the sense that maybe sometimes I use a colored paper that has a completely different texture than maybe a white paper where I decided to draw. And so the mix should be that something should go on contrast with the other element. Otherwise, it could be just too closer, and it won't show you this contrast and this intention of that you won't have with vivid colors. So maybe what I can suggest you is, as I said before, if you want to try on a color paper, maybe in these days, you can have this, you can cut directly a triangular shape on a green paper, and then reproduce the lettering, Prada lettering with another. The idea to me, it would be great, but maybe hard, because maybe you should work with giant proportion.
Yeah.
So you can work very big. So you can cut the triangular shape and then work on the lettering, capturing all the lettering, and then you can use different colors of green for the bag, of green papers, to give this kind of layers. I think you can use also another color paper for the shadows. The bag, you can have, you have like, this is a pocket, it seems, I don't remember, but it's kind of a pocket, and maybe you can add some cutter parts with collage and give this three-dimensional image. Did you find this?
Yeah.
Do you think it could be?
Yeah. What kind of like papers do you recommend for the collage?
Well, I think some heavy papers like from 300 grams. So there are like this is, yes, from 300, because they are like also a little textures that maybe will work on screen if you scan, also if you make a photograph. And I like so that kind of rustic, and maybe with the ink, with the contrast of the ink. Or as Patrick before said, you can also try to have just a simple bold for the figure, bold lines. Maybe you can module your line in some parts to give like the part of the arms, and you can use this for the figure. I will try two different ways, like the figure with all the ink and this kind of collage that I told you before, and also I will try also something like more in line, just simple. So
Simple
here,
line.
for example, I see you had the bag is quite little. Of course, when you go digitally, you can also change the proportions. So it's not completely a mistake to me, but if I say this too, if you want to stay with this proportion, I suggest you to change it. If that was just because you knew that then you will have changed it, okay, that's fine to me.
So the bag is too small.
The bag is too small to me. If you also see I think in this case, if you want to come back to the proportion discussion that we had before, you have to exaggerate it. You cannot make it smaller, because the idea is that the bag is quite big on the people, on the person.
Okay.
But I like that you did something different to challenge yourself. I understand it's hard. It's hard to work with other people, first of all, and it's hard also to change your point of view. I don't. If you have your style, I want you to stay with your style, to remain with your confident feeling. But maybe because you told me about vivid colors, bold lines, expressionism. For example, this kind of black figure, it could be a very a way to express this feeling of expressionism, I think. And maybe you can also have not what can I say, not you don't need to have a plain figure. Maybe you can have your brushes like a kind of we can see your brush, your unfinished brush on a figure. Don't compose your totally plain figure. I think it could be more more expressionistic in this sense.
Okay.
And yes, and you told me about a more vivid color you wanted to do with digitally. I think yes, seeing this, the bag should be definitely more vivid, more.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm very curious to see what you will send to me. If you want, of course, to send me in the next days.
Yeah.
And my suggestion is to, in this case, the image has another format because it's not the square format that I suggested for this kind of work. But the idea was the square format just because you can post it also on Instagram. But Instagram is also the other one. I don't remember the exactly proportions, but you can find it. Maybe Patrick knows it right now.
The format for stories or reels?
The post, the IG post, that is not the square one. It's not the same of the stories, I think.
I'd have to check because it plays about if you want a 1-to-1 ratio. I'll send it to you, Miki.
Okay,
Yeah, if you want, I can change it now. Wait, I can change. It's mostly the Fida entries. My Fida entries mostly.
I'm trying to remember.
No, don't do that. I'm searching. Yes, those are all the format, and I will show you on the chat.
What would be good, Miki, looking at what you showed today, and also from looking at Flaminia's work, is it would be good to draw the same bag in 5 or 10 different ways and change your approach and your medium for each time, and then you'll see which kind of works. And I think that's sort of the journey that Flaminia goes through. Is she'll draw it by hand, then she'll collage it, then she'll paint it, then she'll mix it, then she'll do it in digital. And I think that would be a really nice approach for you to test. And also what's good for you is to then have some reference to think about how would you illustrate a Prada bag in the approach of German expressionism or Bauhaus or brutalist. How would you approach that look and feel? So that's some of the language that's said to me on commissions is, how do you consider this design, but with the lens of a Art Nouveau or surrealist, or and you hear a lot of people asking this. So you when you're trying to build up your style or your language, is you kind of think about, do I want to be quite dreamy or do I want to be quite romantic? And these are quite important codes that make up your work. And I think if you look at Flaminia's work, you can see her codes, how she changes from this very sort of collage, rich in shapes and forms, to then something quite graphic and stark, but with vivid colors. And she likes pink, obviously. But these are things that sets, like you asked earlier with Tracy's class, why did you change the green to a tanned color, like that sort of peachy color? Because she probably can find the tones within them colors. And sometimes green could look quite, because we had a green dress, it could look quite monster-like. So people are quite scared to use green. And I think with that Prada mint green is a really nice green because it's quite pale and pastel-y. But if you were to photograph that, like if you to illustrate it and but be as strong as a photograph, you maybe have to think about the backdrop that pushes that green forward, whether it's a really bold ultramarine blue, or could it be a pink? Would the pink conflict with color? So the Joseph Albert's book, looking at about color, how he thinks about color, how they work against each other. So you could have a color that could fight against the green. And so it's testing. And I do a lot of that in Photoshop. So if I cut something out, I'll try lots of colors in the backdrop just to see how the contrasts work, how the colors work. Does it pop? Does it not? Does it make the image come forward or drop back? All of these sort of ways of working, and you'll learn as you do more. But I feel that my test for you would be to draw that Prada bag 5, 7, 10 different ways, and every approach must be different. Don't just change it a little bit, change it totally, and that's how you will learn faster.
Okay.
Yes, I totally agree with this idea that you have to make your, if you want to do something like expressionism, make research, because here we have completely lost the part of the research that to me it's really, really important, because maybe the time was not too much. So if you want to work on this project and you can do it at your own time, first of all, do some research. And so, for example, to me, that illustration that I showed you before was really inspired by art, by the famous Degas style of ballerinas. And so that kind of feeling of atmosphere, and also some dynamics of the way of the colors. Here, for example, Degas, in my reference, uses some pink colors for the ballet dress. And here, I decided to make a reverse of the space. So I decided to take the ballet dresses like completely white, but then the space shows it's pink, and it shows the dress. It's like using the reverse of the color. It's in the space and shows the dress. So here you have to research, and you have to approach to understand what could be your approach with colors and to what you like the most. So why are you interested in expressionism, and what can you bring on your design, for example? And yes, I totally agree with the change of that was what I was talking when I said that digital illustration offers you an infinite way to express yourself. And I agree with Patrick that said that you can you can have so many proofs of colors behind on your background and feel what it works better.
Okay.
Good. So what you can do, Miki, is potentially, if you want, do some drawings and you can share them via Instagram, tag us both, and then we
Okay.
can look at them and review them. And you can share them with me on Slack anyway. Just DM
Okay.
me. And both of us, it's nice to have the feedback from us both so we can have a look.
Okay.
All right.
10 different.
You've got lots to do, lots of work to do.
Yeah,
Get
I
yourself a good
remember.
sketchbook.
Yeah, on the Instagram you can upload 10 images.
Yes, that's what I said.
I'll target that.
Stick to the 10. So hopefully
Yeah.
that helps. Good. Okay.
Don't feel the pressure. Don't feel the pressure.
No, it's
Good.
such a good opportunity for me, and I'm really grateful. I might take a little bit of time because I have full-time job.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'll do it.
Thank you. All right. Okay. Thanks, Flaminia. Have a good day. And thank you, Miki. Have a good evening and go to bed.
Thank you so
Right.
much.
Especially after a full-time job. So
Well done. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Good night.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.